Hello, and welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ Ferry.
And I'm Chip Camara.
And we're here to tell it to you like it is. It's going to be an interesting week. Already our city snow removal budget is at $190,000 and adding rapidly, with another 6 inches of snow due to come down on Wednesday. It should be an interesting week to see where our snow removal budget ends. And they keep saying we can either take money out of the stabilization fund or the infamous swear word out of City Hall, bond for it. Just what we want to do, bond to pay daily bills. It's going to be an interesting scenario, to say the least. Hopefully we can get somewhere and work this out. It's a kind of a funny thing to do the budgeting for the snow removal, because whatever they set for the snow removal budget this year, next year they have to have at least that amount in the snow removal budget. So they kind of keep it as low as possible to keep it going on. So that should make it very interesting. What do you think about that, Chip? I mean, it's a little weird, isn't it?
No, well, if you look at Fall River, that's the way we do our budgets. Our budgets aren't really budgets, because as we saw with the water department and its infamous increases, and they're projecting a 115% increase in the water fees over the next 4 years to run the department. It was said by the department head. Why wasn't that in the budget that was voted on most recently? It seems as though we have an issue with what the word budget means. The city doesn't realize that when you and I make a budget and everybody out there makes a budget, we have to actually have a budget that reflects how much money we have to spend and what we have to spend it on. As you said, the infamous bonding, their idea of a budget is just throw out a whole bunch of numbers, make it look good, tell them the budget didn't go up that well, and then after the budget's been passed, we borrow money to run our house. Unfortunately, we can't do that, and it's not their money; it's our tax dollar, and it is absolutely, unacceptable.
I agree. I think it's just very interesting the way we look at how Fall River works and what people don't realize. For a lot of people who didn't realize, Monday, February the 3rd, was the last day to file an abatement for your property taxes. And you needed to file for that abatement to have the CPA funds removed from your bill. And because a lot of people weren't made aware of that, a lot of people are going to end up paying that. I would suggest you get the form, make copies of it, and keep it at home so you can file it every year. And it's a 4-page sheet, and they want a lot of information, but I'm sure everyone can do it. I'm not advocating to remove the CPA funds. If you believe in what it's there for, then by all means, give them the money. I personally don't believe in what the money's there for, and I don't want to give them the money. So if I can get an abatement on it, I'm going to try for one. Did you hear about Carol Fiola? How she's touting that she's only been in office, a few weeks, brand new to office, and she went out for a $500,000 bond for lights for the bridge. And she touted those lights as being similar to the ones on the Newport Bridge, which we pay a toll for, and the Pawtucket River Bridge, and the new highway bridge, as they call it in Rhode Island on 95, because they have LED lights on it, which kind of give it some extra lighting that's energy efficient, and they say that it attracts people to it. I have very serious doubts, Representative Fiola, that $500,000 worth of color tech lights, which are LEDs, put on the Braga Bridge, are going to cause people to say, ooh, it's time to stop in Fall River and see what they have to offer. Not that I'm trying to be a naysayer, but I'm being a realist. I think there's a $500,000 in transportation jobs that can be done around Fall River alone, besides putting LED lights on the Braga Bridge. And to say that it will also illuminate Battleship Cove, will cause people to stop at Battleship Cove, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that with this being an election year, Representative Fiola, this is what you're looking for. This is where you're going to. You're looking to make it seem as though you're doing things and you're getting things for Fall River. And by going on the air and toting that we have the entire South Coast delegation from New Bedford, from Fairhaven, from Taunton, from Fall River, on board with what the South Coast needs, because we control this committee and we control that committee and we control the other committee. Those people are chair, I think was very, very very inappropriate and a wonderful way to mislead the electorate. What do you think about that, Chip?
Well, again, I find it rather ironic because when I sat on the board of Heritage State Park, Representative Fiola's husband touted the carousel as the new magnet to Fall River, and we were going to get 500,000 tourists a year that were going to get off the bridge and come to the carousel. And the carousel is there with the whole litany of other things that we've touted as the panacea to Fall River's problems, like the bounty. The fact is, look, you put lights on a bridge, it'll make the bridge better lit. And that's about all it'll accomplish. The fact is that people who are crossing the Braga Bridge are going somewhere, and it's not Fall River, because Fall River really doesn't have that much to offer. And, that doesn't attract tourists. Lights do not attract tourists, because if that was the case, we should put LED lights over every restaurant, over every business in Fall River. And if you think someone's going to get off Route 195 to shop in Fall River that's heading to the Cape, you're sorely mistaken. And I think this is a political ploy. And it's also, I think, a little bit, I find kind of arrogant, because she's the junior representative, and what she said basically implied that since she's gotten there, all these delegations are finally doing something.
Yeah.
And I would take that, if I was a representative that had been sitting up there for a while, I would take that kind of personally and think it was kind of like a left-handed slap at me.
Well, it's interesting because during her interview, all she touted was the fact that I'm out there building coalitions. My entire career has been building coalitions. Since I was a governor councilor, now that I'm a state rep, I'm building coalitions. Wonderful, you build coalitions. You know what coalitions are? It's networking, okay? And to tout that you've done all this work, I think is, a misstatement and should be more appropriately done in a different way. I have to give, credit to Representatives Alan Sylvia and Paul Schmidt when they came in, and they were the junior representatives, because they didn't go out and say, it was because of me we got this done. And it seems to be a Fiola trick. The I'm wonderful. It seems to be very big with the Fiolas, from the Office of Economic Development, or Economic Disaster as we like to call it, to now the State House. So we have to ask ourselves, what is really in this for Representative Fiola? And what is she striving for? Because obviously, the pension's just about in the box. A couple more years and she'll get that pension bump. And that's what a lot of these people want, and we know that. I have to bring up something that's very difficult to discuss. Last week, we had a situation here in Fall River, and many of you called me after seeing me on WJAR 10, saying, what am I doing on Channel 10 talking about this, and who do you think you are, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was called by a parent, and I was called by our director, Mario Dorrego, who got involved in this situation with some 17-year-old little pervert who decided he was going to post nude pictures of our high school students on Facebook. It was unacceptable. And, if we had not hopped on that immediately with the Fall River Police Department and getting the message out there using social media, this would not have come to a stop within 24 hours, and it did. And the perpetrator was arrested. So the alleged crimes that he's done, he's now going to answer for in court. Sadly, the laws in Massachusetts have changed. If this had happened a year ago, he'd be being tried as an adult. But because he's 17 now, and under Massachusetts law with its change, he can only be tried as a juvenile, which basically means he's going to get a big slap in the hand. maybe the Fed should step in and charge them under the federal law. But we got involved, this show got involved, its staff got involved, and we helped make a change. And that's what we do here. And one of the things that came out of it was I presented to Representative Alan Sylvia legislation which he took to the State House Council to have presented in the State Council, in the State House, and then to the Senate, to make it illegal to post inappropriate pictures on websites throughout the Commonwealth as what we call porn revenge. And you can be prosecuted for that. And so that is now in the State House, and hopefully that will be made into a law. And I commend Representative Alan Sylvia, because when I called him, he jumped right on board to this ship, and he started running with it as soon as I got him copies of the legislation. Representative Paul Schmidt's aide, Anthony Valoy, got a hold of me, and they are on board with that as well, and they're going to support Representative Sylvia with this piece of legislation. I think you know, maybe the days of times gone by, we should go back to with the stocks and bring it all back. You know, people walking by down the street and throwing garbage at them or something. But this was hateful. This was hateful, 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 where 14-year-old girls' pictures are being posted on a website. I mean, I was totally disgusted by it. What do you think, Chip? I mean, I know if you would have gotten a hold of this guy, you would have wrung his neck.
Well, first of all, I want to, you know, recognize what Mario and CJ, not CJ Ferry, CJ did it too, but our CJ in our tech room, they're the guys who bring this show to you. You know, they did something. You may not like what we say sometime, but at least we are attempting to make things better. You may not agree with the way we go about it, and we may not agree with the way you go about things, but the fact is, at least we're engaged in the process. And Mario and CJ spent the entire evening in the police station helping the police with this, because they had friends who were on Facebook, and they were basically helping them, giving them some really valuable information, which resulted in this individual being apprehended and answering for what he did. And what he did was unconscionable. I mean, if you had a daughter and those kind of pictures were aired for basically the entire world to see when you put them on Facebook today, you know, which is one of the problems with social media, but it's a fact of life. You know, it's just something that, you know, that had to be done, and it didn't last that long because of people who care enough to get involved with something that really had nothing to do with them because it's wrong. And that's what we try to do. If we think something's wrong, we're going to say it, because it doesn't have to directly affect you in order for you to stand up and be counted. Because if we don't deal with an inequity on someone else, what happens when one is done on us?
You know, you read that poem
That's right.
a couple of weeks ago, and it's true. And I mean, that's why we got involved. You know, I've heard the comments that, you know, well, you're all nobodies and you're just trying to make your name for yourself. You know what? We don't care about the name. We're not. We think we're nobodies. We think we're somebodies. Whatever the case may be, we're doing what we do. We've done this before we had a show. We're just letting you know that we're doing it now, and we want you to keep calling us because that's important. $3.75 million for STEM programs in the Durfee High School. Amazing. The city school department has filed for a $3.75 million grant from the federal government. The government's offering $100 million in grants to 40 school districts throughout the country for STEM programs. STEM means science, technology, engineering, and math. To improve your programs and to produce students who actually have a job afterwards. And they're calling these grants the H-1B grants. For those of you who don't know what an H-1B is, it's a special visa granted to immigrants who come to this country to do a job that nobody in America is qualified to do. So that tells you that we have to have a special grant to produce these programs. The problem I have here, and I'm going to ask you this, school superintendent, Mayor Brown, and our school committee, and of course, the infamous Mr. Mayor, what do we have to offer? Besides the fact that your friends over at Primacare, Mr. Mayor, are going to help subsidize the 25% grant match that's required. So I have to ask, what are you going to actually offer to these students? I mean, I've read it in the paper, I've looked it over, or is this just a way to get the money in to produce a program that keeps other people that are well connected to the administration, the school committee, and the superintendent into new jobs, making more money than we know what to do with? I've seen a lot of grant money come into Fall River. And again, I'm not opposed to grant money if the grant money is going to produce. I am opposed to grant money that comes into Fall River to subsidize the budget in a way that actually becomes the budget. So if your fire department needs a budget, it gets it from grant money. If the police department needs a budget, it gets grant money. And the city keeps saying, well, we have to give less and less and less. I don't want to see this $3.75 million become $3.75 million we don't have to put into the school department. That's one of my biggest fears. And we've seen this happen over and over again, Mr. Mayor and school superintendent. And it's a valid concern that I have. I'm not sure if other people have it, but I know I do. And I have to ask, how are we going to be sure that it's not going to happen? After all, we've seen what happens with money that comes into Fall River that we bond with, that we have grant money for. It seems that the same people keep the same jobs over and over and over again. And their grant money starts to run out, and all of a sudden they get another grant and they have it. Their job continues. And people, of course, who don't do work or fail to do their work properly, they keep their jobs. People like maybe corporate counsel, people like water department personnel. So we have to ask, what's this money going to actually do? Because we have no jobs in that region, in this area, that we can offer. We don't have any biotech jobs. We don't have any biomedical jobs. We don't have any engineering jobs. And we definitely don't have any math type jobs. So that's science, technology, engineering and math. Where is it? I mean, all we have are a couple of hospitals and a couple of medical firms. And there's a few manufacturing jobs which don't require, and I'm going to quote you, Mr. Mayor, don't require the skills necessary. After all, that's why we're going for a casino, right? Because it doesn't require skills. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, that is pretty accurate. And the other thing that concerns me about our penchant for bonding and grants is the fact that we seem to run this city either on credit or handouts. And the fact is that, look, my philosophy is we should get as many grants as are offered and we can get. But those grants should be used to supplement whatever department or service you're looking at. They're not supposed to be used to sustain that department's core requirements. The fact is that if we can get a grant for the school department, fine. But we seem to have a problem with our basic essential services are moving more and more away from being funded by our tax dollars and more on grants. And they use our tax money to give pay raises to their friends and create jobs for their friends. The reality is the fire department is facing a massive cut because they're going to lose the big SAFER grant, which this city used to move away from funding firefighter jobs. I was told by very reliable sources, and I even got a call from the present city administrator that they were looking at a grant for to put 16 people on. Right now they have 79 people funded, so we're going to lose a lot of people. But even that is a misrepresentation of fact. The fact is that the city cut 14 firefighter positions from last year's budget in this year's budget. There were 98 firefighters funded by the city, and now there are 84 funded by the city. So if we get a grant for 16 people, we've actually only got a net increase of 2 jobs, because all we're doing is funding the 14 jobs that we were using our tax dollars to fund. Now they're funding them with federal. So we're going backwards, not forward. And the fact is, I don't know about you, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. But when I pay my taxes, I'm paying for police officers, firefighters, DPW workers to pick up my trash, and the essential services I feel that a city is required to give its citizens and taxpayers. And all I see with this administration is spending more money, creating more bills with bonds, and taking our essential services and spending less and less of our tax dollars and depending more and more on the welfare of the state and the federal government, and ultimately that will come back and bite us in the tuchus.
Well, you know, it's our fault because we have the lowest tax rate in the state. You know that, right?
Yeah, well, that's an inaccuracy, obviously. I am going to, at next week's program, and I'm going to probably present it before the council, I'm setting up all the tax rates. But the one I used in front of the city council was Newton. Now, I don't even need to look at the thing. I know the stats. I just happened to check when they said that. The new tax rate in Fall River is $12.58. The Newton tax rate, which, by the way, is a comparable in size city, is $2.12. So it's 46 cents cheaper than Fall River. But that's not the key. It's 12 cents. It's 12 cents. But how about ability to pay? The average household income in Fall River is $34,000. The average household income in Newton is $109,000. That's almost 4 times the income. Those people have 4 times the ability to pay, and they're paying less taxes than we do. They also have less than 7% of people that live in that community on the poverty level. We have over 20%.
23.
So we are imposing a financial burden on the people who have the least ability to pay in this state, and they continue to lie to the public and tell everybody we have the lowest tax rate in the state. We don't even have the lowest tax rate if we compare the numbers. But if we take a ratio of how much you pay to your income, we probably have the highest tax rate in the state. And that is just wrong, and the public has to wake up.
Well, it seems that it's very difficult to wake up the city of Fall River on a lot of things, because for some reason they're all mesmerized by the Pied Piper of Hamelin here. And, you know, the man can do no wrong. And every time he does wrong, we keep that behind us. We don't look in the rearview mirror. We keep moving forward, you know. You've said it many times. I've said it many times. You know, a man who does not learn from history is doomed to repeat it. And right now, that's what Fall River is doing. It's repeating itself. Our biggest problem has been that over the years, Fall River has not stuck to a master plan, because you know what? We have many of them. They're all collecting dust in City Hall, but none of them really have a master plan to anything. They really don't go anywhere, because if they did, we'd be somewhere today. So we spent millions and millions and millions of dollars paying hundreds of consultants, or probably not even hundreds, probably 5 or 6, they just kept making money off of us, to develop these master plans that we don't use. Why do we keep doing that? Why do we keep spending money fruitlessly? I don't know. It's ridiculous. But I noticed by the clock, it's that time of the day for our bit of information and welcome commentary from our lovely friend, Chip Camara. And I'm sure you're going to turn the fires on and burn a couple of things here.
Well, you know, we're gonna get a little philosophical here, and we're gonna talk about what America is supposed to be. I'm gonna remind some of the people that seem to forget this, that call themselves very liberal, about the fact that America was founded because of people suffering religious persecution and stifling of their ability to have freedoms to live as they wish to live. And that segues into, you know, we have some issues here that are going to resurrect some feelings with everybody. They're very controversial issues, and That is the casino issue. And the casino issue is going to bring a lot of debate and a lot of controversy. But I will tell you that this is my opinion, this is my commentary, so you can disagree with me. But I believe that, you have a right to do anything that's legal in this country if you are of age, and it is illegal. It's within the law that you can do anything you'd like, and that includes gambling, and that includes strip clubs. Should they be put in particular locations? Yes, I think there should be the least amount of impact to the residential community. However, with that being said, I had an advocate, an anti-gambling advocate, get about a half-inch from my face and yell at me that if we got a casino, they were going to invade my house and kill my dog and me. Well, they can try if they're welcome to try, but I don't think gamblers are known to that. Drug addicts are known to have home invasions, and we're like 44th in the country in drugs. I think we should be a little bit more concerned about that. However, we are not being our brother's keeper by stopping gambling, because the fact is that we are enabling people. You think you're going to stop gambling? You're not. Look what happened with prohibition. We attempted to legislate morality and have people behave the way we wanted. We had prohibition. What did it result in? More liquor, people getting rich with illicit liquor sales, more crime with people fighting over who was going to control that industry. And if you really believe people will stop gambling if we eliminated gambling, every bookie in this country should send you a thank you note. And with that, I'll end it.
Well, and don't forget, we have the biggest gambling business in the Commonwealth right now. It's the Commonwealth.
That's right.
It's the Commonwealth. I mean, and I believe that same advocate turned around and said, no, that money goes back to the communities. The city's working on host fees right now for your commentary, and we haven't seen any of what that's going to be yet. But that's money coming back to the community, and that's money that can actually fund a lot of things. I'm not for casinos. I'm not against casinos. If they come here, they come here. Do I think it's going to come here? No. And I think showing that, Somerset turned around and said, hey, they can have the power plant once they shut down. So, everyone's on board for getting a casino. So somebody wants them, and somebody's going to get one down here. It's just a matter of time to see who and when. Again, I want to give a great thanks out to our viewers. Thank you for watching us. Thanks for calling us with your tips and your concerns. I want to give a thanks to our director, Mario Dorego, and CJ Coombs for all the work they did this past week on the pornography scare, and I call it child pornography because that's exactly what it was, because they worked very hard with the Florida Police Department, and that shows you that if you give a couple of kids the opportunity, they can do a lot of great work. So keep watching us. Share us with your friends. Share us on Facebook. Post us all over the place. We love to hear from you. Keep in touch. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Debate the issues.